All right, Ms. Caldwell, your landlord, attorney for your landlord, Mr. Jeremy Gump is here. The title of this case is Block 14 versus Caldwell. The file number is 252610LT. This is one of the last cases filed in 2025. They want you to move out. They filed a termination of tenancy and they filed it in November asking you to move. And they filed a notice to quit asking you to do that back in November. So they filed this action to ask me to order you to move. In this case is called a termination of tenancy case. And as such, you have a right to hire an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, the legal aid attorney may be available to assist you. You could seek that assistance. We sent you that number, or you could seek other representation. Or you could just represent yourself, as many people do. You have the right to hire, you have the right to have the case heard here in St. Joseph County where the property is located. You have a right to demand a jury trial. If you want a jury trial, you must tell the court at this first court appearance or make the demand in writing within 5 days of the court appearance, which is 5 days from today, on the jury demand form, and pay the $50 jury fee unless the judge waives the fee for your inability to pay it. You may be able to reach an agreement with the landlord by going through community dispute resolution. If both parties are interested, the court can help set it up. So far, that's never happened, but it might one day. Or you may be able to reach an agreement with the landlord. That means there would be a conditional order of dismissal and the case would be dismissed. According to the pleadings, your lease expired on December 4th. So they gave you a notice to quit on October 4th, telling you they wanted you to vacate at the expiration of your lease. And you're still there as far as we know, and they're asking that you move. What's your position?
My position is I am behind in rent of $340. And the reason of why I'm behind in that rent, I told the maintenance guy, Larry, I'm unsure of his last name, that I had to use that money to fight to keep my kids in court. My ex was trying to take custody. And I told him I would try my best to get that caught up as soon as possible. And I've still been unable to do that. And when he told me about, this court hearing that I would be doing, he advised me to, call like my local DHS or churches, organizations that are able to help. And I have done that.
Well, who is this Larry?
He is the maintenance person for my new landlord.
Oh.
He says that sometimes he has worked, with organizations.
Well, the problem
like that.
here is they're not asking you, at least not by the court pleadings, to pay the rent. They just want you to move. Now they can agree with you on a off-court basis to pay the rent and stay.
Yeah.
There's two ways to do this. There's one called a non-payment of rent. You either pay the rent or you move out. So we'll say through January, the amount of rent due is $1,300. You'd have 10 days to pay the $1,300 rent or move. And if you don't move, the court would issue a writ of eviction. This isn't that kind of case. They simply said our lease is up. We want her to move and we're not asking for money. We just want her to vacate. And I'm assuming you don't wish to vacate.
No.
Are your kids also there?
Yes, my kids are also here.
How many kids?
I have 3 kids.
Well, the law requires that I adjourn this matter at least 7 days. And I'm leaving on a trip today. So I'm going to be gone for a little bit. So we're going to have to bump this out a little farther than I would normally do. Mr. Gump, I apologize. But we're going to continue this till the 23rd of January.
Your Honor, if you're amenable to January 26th, I'm already with you on the 26th.
All right, that makes good sense. Where are we? I have a Lamp and Key Root and Branch Real Estate, Sturgis
Yes.
Housing. Is that the one you're on?
Yeah, the root and branch, 225 on
All
Monday.
right, I'm gonna continue this until 1:30 on January 26th. Mr. Gump's scheduled to be here that day anyway. Now, Ms. Caldwell, if they get what they ask for, I would order that you move out 10 days after January 26th, or the sheriff will come evict you. That would be February the 5th. But you can also talk to your landlord in the meantime and see if you can come to some sort of an agreement. If you do get some emergency housing assistance or you get current in your rent, they could do what's called a conditional order of dismissal and have the case dismissed. But you need to stay in contact with your manager.
Yeah, I have recently talked to him. I have recently talked to the maintenance man, Larry. Again, I'm unsure of his last name. He's the one that collects my rent and gives it to the landlord. I'm actually meeting with him sometime today to give him $600. And I told him
All
that
right,
I,
now let's talk about that. Mr. Gump, if she pays $600, that undoes the termination of tenancy. You can't take money pending a termination of tenancy, or you have to start over. So if they do wish to have her get caught up on the rent, you could prepare a conditional order of dismissal and have the case dismissed. But it's kind of a tricky tightrope the plaintiff landlord has to walk in these kinds of cases.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna pay and get caught up and stay there, great. I say this a lot. It's easier to keep a good tenant in there than to move one out and move another one in. And also this affects your kids, their school district, the struggle you're having. But there may be other reasons why they simply wish to end this tenancy. I don't know that. But your lease is expired. It was a 1-year lease. Now it's month to month unless you execute another one. All right. Do you have any questions?
no.
All right. You're going to meet with a manager today.
Yeah, he told me I told him yesterday that I had $600 cash for him. He said that he spoke with the landlord and updated him, notifying him that I have reached out to organizations. I'm supposed to be getting a phone call today from
All right. Well, they
Sturgis
can
Neighborhood
decide whether
Inc.
they wish to accept the money or not. All right. You're good to go. I'll see you on the 26th at 1:30 by Zoom, just like this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're good to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Jerry Caldwell. The defendant has failed to appear. This is a demand for non-payment of rent. The rent was $292 per month, which really is pretty low. So obviously this is a subsidized unit. Ms. Strong, what's the current arrearage?
Currently, there is rent due and owing in the amount of $859.96.
Through January?
That is through January. There are court costs of $200.50 for a total through January of $1,060.46.
He hasn't paid since October. I'll ask Lynn, the manager, is he still there?
He is not. A couple weeks before Christmas, I contacted Stony Summy. He is a vet and he was placed here by Stony. According to Stony, he has him somewhere safe, but his apartment's full of stuff.
All right.
And I would like to be able to work with Stony to get this gentleman's personal belongings so it doesn't go to the road.
And what I would
Yes.
note for the record and for for Mr. Caudle and for Mr. Summy is if he turns in keys prior to the writ date and cleans out his property, he won't have an eviction on his record. So the hope is that we can avoid that, but we don't have him here to do any kind of other resolution.
Well, we have a second mailing here. He was served by attachment. So, Ms. Strong, are you going to ask for a default, or do you want me to set it for a subsequent hearing?
I am going to be requesting a default based on that second mailing, only because we need to make some progress with this unit. But my hope, and I rely on Lynn to continue communicating with Mr. Summy and try to help Mr. Caudle land well in this circumstance.
All right. If you would email me a judgment.
Yes, Your Honor.
The date for the writ would be 10 days from today. Judge Pattison can sign it in my absence. Today is the 9th. And so the date for the writ would be the 19th.
I'll get that submitted, Your Honor.
One of the reasons to go ahead and do the default, there's a waiting list. There's people that would like to have this apartment. There's not enough housing stock, period. And there's certainly not enough subsidized housing stock where the rent's $200. So
Well,
I'm
we are
sure
no
if
longer subsidized, Your Honor.
Oh, you're
We
not?
were
So it's all
sold.
market rent now?
It
But you
is,
still
but
got a waiting list, I'm sure, of people that would like to move in.
well, the other problem is that Jerry could get a voucher from the USDA, and I have it right here. That's the other problem, and he needs this,
All right.
where he could go anywhere with this voucher. So I would really like to be able to work with him and be in touch with him so he can have this voucher.
And Lynn, if you
Well-
get communication from him, let me know and we can
Yes.
try to figure something out.
Well, Stony Summy is a great help for our veterans. And he's got him someplace. Is he a hoarder kind of a thing or just regular stuff in there?
It's just regular stuff.
All right.
But like I said, I was working with Stony, and Stony informed me he does have him somewhere safe, which I'm thankful for, but I need some, either Stony be the middleman, somebody, he needs some
All right.
additional help.
I will send a copy of the judgment to Stony Summy.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Strong. I'm going to leave this afternoon about 2:30. So if you get that to me this morning, I'll sign it before I go.
We'll send it right over. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you,
All
Lynn.
right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. This is filed as a termination of tenancy. Your landlord, Mr. DeMeyer, is here, and Mr. Robert Dutka is here for the landlord. As a tenant in a termination of tenancy case, you and your husband have the following rights. You have the right to hire a lawyer to represent you in this case. If you cannot afford one, we'll give you information about legal aid, and legal aid may be available to assist you. They're not here with us this morning. They usually are, or you could try to seek other legal advice. You have a right to have the case heard here in St. Joseph County, where the property is located. You have a right to demand a jury trial. If you wish to have a jury trial, you must tell me at this first court appearance or make the demand in writing within 5 days of today, using the jury demand form, and be prepared to pay the $50 jury demand fee unless the judge waives it for your inability to pay. You may be able to reach an agreement with the landlord by going through community dispute resolution, and you can find, we could assist you with that if you're interested and the plaintiff is interested. You may be able to reach an agreement with the landlord. That means the case would get dismissed, in which case they could file something called a conditional order of dismissal. This is filed as a termination of tenancy. Your landlord has filed an extensive document listing the alleged violations of your lease. Good morning. It says, I will not be renewing your release, which expires on 12/4/25. You have broken the lease so many times. Your daughter, grandson, granddaughter are not on the lease. There's a dog in the apartment. There's a whole bunch of issues, and they simply want you to move. Yes?
kissing a dog.
She said she would be here in person.
Meg will be here in person? Okay. Or
I
11?
have a lawyer.
Oh. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sir, I have a lawyer, Your Honor.
Who's your lawyer?
Mr. Freeman.
Who's your lawyer?
Mr. Freeman,
What's his first name?
Adam,
Okay.
and I also have fair housing involved.
All right, well, they allege that you've got unlisted people on the lease. They list that there's dogs in there. Your someone made threats to other people. Someone stole somebody's stuff off their porch. They want possession of their property back and they want you to leave. So the law says we have to adjourn this matter at least 7 days. If you have a lawyer, he isn't here. And I don't know where's Adam Freeman from?
Legal aid.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to go all the way with this. I need to speak with my lawyer first.
All right, well, we
see
have to set this for another hearing. So it could be set for a trial. Now, if you've got a dog in there, if you've got people that are not on the lease that are living there, those are issues that could come up at a trial where people are placed under oath and we take testimony. But they want you to move, and you apparently don't want to move. And go ahead.
I don't know what is wrong with this lady. Okay. I have videos and I don't know what is wrong with Vicky.
Well, would you stand in one place? You're making me dizzy there by walking around.
I am so sorry, Judge. The thing about it is I get along with everyone. When I first moved in here, this house was completely trashed. I have pictures from the time I moved in. My grandson is a lieutenant in the Army. He is not around at this time. My grandson, my kids, my grandkids, they are in the Army. And we had events and stuff. I have the pastor involved. I have people that will stand up for me because all of these are a bunch of lies. And I don't appreciate it.
All right, well, right now, they're just a contention. They want you to move, and they've asked me to have a hearing. So no one is here from legal aid. They're going to be here in a little bit, but the law requires that I continue this matter at least 10 days. And I'm going to be gone for a few days, Mr. Dutka. So
Okay.
that takes us to Friday, the 23rd.
I'm free that day if that's the only day the court is free.
All right, let's set this for 10:30 to Friday, January 23rd, 2/6 at 10:30. Now, if they get what they ask for, you would have 10 days from that day to move out or be subject to being evicted. But it sounds like we may need to have a trial and test these allegations. You've seen the notice. It has all these things. Now, let me ask this, Mr. DeMeyer. In addition, is there unpaid rent?
Yes.
All
I
right.
think Mr. Duck has got a sheet
Mr.
on that.
Dutka, when was rent last paid?
The last I knew, and I could be wrong on this, the last rent paid was in October. It might be longer than that.
No. I
I
have proof.
it was October.
All right. Now, at this point, Ms. Winters, they're not asking you to pay the rent. They're asking you to move. But in addition, it says on January 9th, they said they haven't paid their rent for 4 weeks. The church paid their rent on 8/28/25. So I don't know if there's a shortfall in the rent, but they're not asking you to pay the rent, they're asking you to move. And they allege a number of violations of the lease, including a bunch of stuff, cars, dogs, unlawful tenants, other issues.
And
All
your
right, so
Honor, I
good.
think it should be stressed that actually the lease ended on December 4th. So
Yes.
that's another factor, important factor, as a matter of fact.
The very first case we did today, Miss Winters, the lease ended December 4th. So they sent the tenant a notice to quit on, ended on December 4th. They sent him a notice to quit on November 4th, saying we don't intend to renew your lease. This isn't a federally subsidized rental, it's just a rental. And when you have a lease and it expires and they give you a notice to quit, they can simply ask to terminate your tenancy. Now, they don't even need a reason other than the lease has expired. We want to sell the property. We want to tear it down and put up a parking lot. We want to have it empty so we can remodel it. They have a right to end the lease. So in other circumstances, they have to show just cause for termination of the lease. Now, so they can evict you at the termination of the lease. They can't evict you for a bad reason. But normally when the lease is up, they can simply ask for their property back. So they may not even need to prove all these allegations other than the lease is expired and we'd like to have our property back and then they'll move out. But apparently, or hopefully, legal aid's gonna assist you with this. And
There's no,
say that again.
there's no communication, sir. There's no communication. That woman is very disrespectful. She is
Well, maybe
very
they don't want any communication. They just want you to move.
You know
And
what?
so,
I understand that, sir, perfectly clear. Okay. I didn't get this age for nothing. Okay. I'm letting you know
all right,
right
well,
now
we've got Mr. Dutka on one side and we may have legal aid on the other side, but they haven't filed an appearance. And if they do, Mr. Dutka is certainly available to talk with them, but we're not going to do anything until at least January 23rd at 10:30. So that's our next hearing. Okay.
Okay, can I bring my is this the way that because my grandson is in the army and he was lied on and the army is going we want this to be proven. I'm
Well,
asking
we probably won't have a trial on that day. We may just discussing it further.
Okay,
But all right, so as I said,
lie.
there's one thing, they allege there's violations of the lease, but Mr. Dutka brings up the lease is expired. So they may not even get into the allegations. I'm sure legal aid will have a different perspective on it. They may allege improper termination or something, but we'll address that further. Your son doesn't need to be here from the Army. You and Randy need to be here, but we'll address it further on Friday, January 23rd at 10:30.
Grandson.
All right, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you,
Well,
Mr. Ducker.
Judge, please,
Yes.
Judge, I'm asking you, please, I'm asking you, and I'm asking you, please. I'm asking these people to back up. They're stalking us. We have it on camera. They're stalking us. They're disrespecting us. They're sending people. They're watching us.
All right, well, all right, just everybody need to stay away from each other for the next couple of weeks. But at this point, they can't even accept any rent because they filed it as a termination of tenancy. So you stay in contact with your lawyer. The DeMeyers, I'll direct them to stay away from you. And
Sir,
let's see if we
and-
can get somewhere on
and-
January 20th. All right, thank you.
Can I-
All right, Mr. Dutka, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There's more to the story here. I've not heard from legal aid, but Meg is going to be here shortly, I think, on another case. And
That'll be
we'll,
good to find out.
all right, thank you. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Ms. Sprague and Cynthia, this is a subsidized rental.
Correct.
And what is the current rent?
Currently, her rental rate is, my apologies, Your Honor, I just need to get to the ledger for the other items. Her rental rate is $299 a month.
All right, at this point, they're not asking you to pay rent. They haven't asked for rent. In fact, when a termination of tenancy, they can't even accept rent. Now, they allege a number of serious violations of the lease, one of which is you continue to have an unauthorized tenant in the unit. Cynthia, who is the unauthorized tenant alleged to be?
Shandy and her
Yes.
boyfriend.
Yes.
She's not on the lease.
No.
Do you know the boyfriend's name?
I
No,
don't
I-
know.
Your Honor, his name is Patrick.
Patrick?
Patrick.
What's his last name?
Wiltsey, Wiltire, something like that.
All right, so your daughter's there. She's not on the lease and she's
No.
gonna get you kicked out of your apartment.
She won't leave.
All right, so daughter won't leave.
Boyfriend either. I've asked numerous and numerous times for my daughter to
All right, well,
leave.
let's slow down here. Ms. Bauer is here. She has not filed an appearance. We knew she was on the way. I just advised the tenant of her rights. We tried to determine who the unauthorized tenant is, which is causing this termination of tenancy. And we learned that that is her daughter, Shandy Faulkner, who is on the notice, and her boyfriend, I believe his name is Patrick Wiltsey. So now that, and Ms. Bauer, are you going to appear in this case?
Yes, Your Honor. Meg Bauer, P84816, appearing on behalf of defendant Donna Carr only.
All right.
And my apologies to the court.
You don't need to apologize. We knew you were on the way, and you've got another case coming up in about an hour, and you asked Ms. Carr to be here, I think, so you could meet with her personally. Ms. Sprague, my inclination at this point is to grant a default judgment against Shandy Faulkner, who was personally served and is not here, and reset the hearing on this defendant, Ms. Gann, for January 23rd. Does that make sense to you?
It does, Your Honor. My concern, we will of course take the default as to Ms. Faulkner. Given the defendant's indication that she has not authorized the unauthorized occupants to live there, would a notice of trespass be appropriate after the 10 days for Ms. Faulkner? Or because my concern with the default on one party, not multiples, is that it's not enforceable effectively. So we'll take the default, but that's my concern.
I've done it before.
Okay.
But Ms. Bauer, you're not representing Ms. Faulkner. Do you have a perspective from Ms. Gann's side?
Ms. Carr.
Ms. Carr, excuse me.
Although I was actually on the phone with Attorney Gann for about 20 minutes this morning. We would actually, had the plaintiff not asked for it or it been brought up, we were going to ask the court for entry of a default against the other defendant, as there was personal service on her. As you have indicated, I have worked on cases in this county where we have done the bifurcated eviction with one tenant remaining and one tenant being evicted. So I do believe that after the 10th day, a no trespass request or direction from the plaintiff would be sufficient to then grant the police authority to apprehend or otherwise take legal action against Ms. Faulkner were she to be on the premises after the 10th day. I don't know anything much about Mr. Travis, but it would seem he hasn't established residency here. He's not named.
Yeah, it's not, and other parties. If I do all other parties, it's gonna evict.
She kept, could I say, she kept bringing him over, and I told her.
Well, he can do it.
Here.
All right, well, he's apparently the source of many of these problems.
Yes, he is.
All right. I had a case once where a young man, he had some difficulties. He got a girlfriend. She wasn't really his girlfriend, but she wanted access to his house. And she moved all of her friends into his house. And they basically took it over and started it as a drug house. The poor guy was just overwhelmed. But at this point, Ms. Sprague, I'm gonna do a default as to Shandy Faulkner, subject to eviction 10 days from today.
Your Honor,
Yes?
would it be possible to also do the default? I understand your perspective that and other occupants has a possibility of including Miss Carr, but could we do it as a Shandy Faulkner and all other occupants, not including Miss Carr, in order to
Yes.
ensure that it includes the I'm sorry, I don't have his name.
Yes.
His name, the boyfriend.
And all other occupants, not including Ms. Carr. So 10 days from today would be January 19th. I will be back on January 23rd. I'll be back on the 21st, excuse me. Meg, before you got here, I checked with Ms. Sprague to see if Friday, January 23rd at 10:45 would work for her calendar.
I believe I already have a couple of cases in front of you that
I
day.
think you do. So let's just continue as to Carr only. All right, Ms. Sprague, I would ask you if you would send me that judgment by email sooner rather than later. I'm going to be leaving this afternoon as soon as I finish a case, and I'll be gone for a bit. So if you would email that to me, we'll try to evict the non-appearing personally served defendant and other unauthorized occupants. We'll continue as to Ms. Carr and see what our circumstance is on January 23rd.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would note that I believe there was a money judgment requested in this matter. Let me confirm that with my file.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to grant it at this point
Okay.
because I don't know what the status is. We may not. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Judge, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I believe Ms. Carr has attempted to pay her rent, but because this is a termination of tenancy, the plaintiff has refused to accept it. We would be willing to waive the Park Forest defense if the plaintiff would accept her rent so that she can continue to stay current.
Okay.
Are you willing to accept rent from Ms. Carr?
Yes, Your Honor, with that waiver of the Park Forest defense. But my apologies. If Ms. Bauer is not currently representing, can she do that waiver, or does the defendant need to state that on the
She
record?
placed her appearance on the record.
Okay.
But let's ask Ms. Carr, are you willing to continue to pay your rent even though in a termination of tenancy case you could not be compelled to do that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Rent is how much? $2.99? Is that what you told me? Yeah.
It's $2.99. Currently, we do show a balance on the account of.
Judge, there's a housing choice voucher involved in this case. So Park Forest actually had already been triggered anyways, despite their declining to accept the tenant portion of payment. But again, we've got other interests. We're not interested in raising that case. But my understanding is that the rent is not, we might have some questions about their current rental rate and whether that increased or not for the tenant portion. So
is rent increased for 2026?
We show that currently her rent is at
241. was 241.
Two
Your
ninety,
Honor.
it's at 299 currently, and it was previously at. Your Honor, it's a 91-page document. I just have to get to the right page. It was previously at 241 as of December, so January 1st, it did increase to 299.
All right, well, whatever she pays, plaintiff agrees to accept and not forfeit the right to terminate the tenancy. And we will try to get the other people out. Maybe we can salvage Miss Carr's tenancy. All right, we'll continue this till Friday, January 23rd at 10:45. As far as Miss Falter is concerned and her co-tenant, Mr. Wiltsey, if they're not out by the 19th, they're subject to being evicted. The order may not get signed till I return on the 22nd. But the sheriff can come put them out with that writ of eviction. So we'll see how we do, but you tell her she didn't show up. She was personally served and the judge entered a default and gave her 10 days to move out. Him
Your
too.
Honor, can I
Yes.
speak? I spoke to her this morning and I kind of felt like she really didn't care.
Well, if she doesn't care, then she should move. But right now her rent is 0. So that's probably a fact. So is his. At any rate, they've got 10 days to get out or they're subject to being evicted. And let's see how we're doing on January 23rd at 10:45. All right, thank you all. All right, we're going to take a recess. Miss Bauer and I have got another case to do at 11. She'll have time to consult with this client and get ready for the next one. We'll stop the record, stop the live feed, and see if anybody brought in any cookies or anything else. Cynthia, I'm going to release you and you're good to go.